behind this initiative and publicly endorsing it. What are you hoping for a result of this? Are you hoping maybe some of this that increased pressure will help see some action on this front from the federal government? Obviously, to the Sault Ste. Marie economy, this is an important issue.
Well, I want to be clear that I'm working with our mayor and our federal government on this, our federal MP, Terry Sheehan. The reality is that the trade remedy system in Canada is broken. It's not working. It's outdated, antiquated, more than 20 years old, and needs to be improved immediately. There are 20,000 direct steel jobs at stake in this country. There are thousands of jobs in Ontario at stake, and in our community, obviously in Sault Ste. Marie, as well as those suppliers and their families, by extension, that are impacted by the dumping of foreign steel in this country. We're not doing enough as Canadians to stop dumping and to put the appropriate penalties in place for dumped steel in this country. There are all kinds of other issues around procurement, the environmental cost, and the like, that we need to take a serious look at, because our producers are efficient. People understand that free trade is a reality, but we're talking about fair trade here. What we want to see is fair trade, and that's not what's happening right now. When you have state-subsidized steel industries that have 10 times the carbon emissions, picking the price of steel, dumping it in our market, and we have rules and regulations for our steel industry that we're proud of to protect the environment, to protect workers, to protect jobs. And we need a fair trade system, and that's not what we have.
Initiatives like this aren't always easy time-wise to get this done in a quick fashion, but considering the situation at Tenaris and Algoma, what have you been told from people in the industry? Like, how quickly does this need to happen for it to have a real...
Well, this is an urgent issue, and it is continuing to overtake steelmaker after steelmaker. Last year, about this time, Stelco went into CCAA in the fall of 14, and in the fall of 2015, SR followed suit. This is impacting many steel producers across the country. I believe there's about 17 steel producers, but there's only 3 fully integrated mills in the country. 3, all of which are in Ontario, and 2 of which are now in bankruptcy protection. So this speaks to the trade remedy system that's broken and not working. The former federal Conservative government dithered on this for a decade or so, appointed individuals to the CITT that in many ways were out of touch with what's taking place, and we need the federal government to adopt a trade remedy system that is reflective of today's global realities. We want fair trade for steel in this country, and I'm asking residents of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontarians, and all Canadians to sign the petition and send a very clear message that this needs to change now.
David, briefly tell us what specifically has to happen for things to change, because this has been going on locally here for several weeks.
Well, when we have Canadian Border Services finding that there is dumped steel coming into the country, and they levy a fine, then we have to have those fines upheld. And the Canadian International Trade Tribunal needs to recognize that when they follow up and say there is not harm being done, because there's 2 issues or 2 questions that are asked. The first question is steel being dumped? In other words, is a foreign producer selling steel into our domestic market cheaper than they sell it in their own market, or below their manufactured cost? Okay. The next question is, when they do that, is it impacting negatively the steel industry or producers in Canada? In other words, is there harm being done? What is the result? And the result is, in a number of cases, and certainly a more recent case, that there's harm being done to SR Steel with respect to their plate capacity. They produce 80 to 90% of all the plate in the country. Canadian Border Services determined that plate was being dumped. CITT agreed that plate was being dumped, but then concluded that there was no harm to the domestic industry. Our local industry is in bankruptcy protection. I invite the members of the CITT to visit Sault Ste. Marie and talk to the workers, and talk to the company, and talk to the suppliers who are laying off workers, whose families are being affected by the reality that our trade remedy system is broken and not working, and say that no harm is being done. I don't think they'd find that was the case. So, they need to have another look at this. They need to seriously consider and act on changes that have been recommended by the Canadian Steel Producers Association. This is gravely important to thousands of workers in our city, in Ontario, and right across this country. And so the other aspect of what we're doing today is launching the website, www.fairtradeforsteel.ca. And on that, there's a petition urging the federal government to adopt these trade remedy modernization strategies.
David, locally, you've got a united front for obvious reasons, trying to get this change forward. You said you met with your colleagues about this issue. How confident are you that Ottawa is going to change things and we'll get on this due to the urgency?
Well, what I can say is the previous government dithered away on this. Well, jobs were impacted. We don't have the luxury of any more time on this. This needs to change quickly. We cannot think about this for another year or two before any action is taken. I am confident that our federal MP, Terry Sheehan, and having spoken to him on numerous occasions on this issue, is very much aware of this issue and is acting with his colleagues to try to affect change for the betterment of workers in our community and right across the country. I know Terry's on this, and I know the mayor has indicated that he's interested in helping out however he can. And so we want to see a greater awareness of the issues around trade affecting the workers in Sault Ste. Marie. We can go through another restructuring, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to land on our feet here in Sault Ste. Marie, so to speak. I don't have that certainty. I can't say that is a certain outcome at this point. But what I know is if we are able to successfully restructure SR, whether it's with the existing company or a different company, the reality is that company in our community will have to continue to compete in a global environment that the trade remedy system in this country does not work. And it needs to be fixed. So whoever potentially could run SR or potentially the same company that may be successful in restructuring it, we need to ensure that going forward, the trade remedy system is in place that works. Also when we're looking at or talking about who might buy this, why would another company or country consider buying this mill if the doors are wide open to dumping? If there aren't the protections that we need afforded for our workers and our industry. And again, I'm talking about fair trade. I'm not talking about, archaic protectionist strategies that are, from days gone by. But I am talking about very real fair trade rules. That's not what we have today, and that's what needs to be changed. And that's why I'm urging all residents, sign the petition, show your support. We need to get greater consensus on this to be able to move forward and affect these changes.
Is this a first step? Are there any next steps planned beyond this petition?
Well, I'm going to continue, and as I've indicated, I've had SR officials meeting with 4 different ministries in our government, as well as the Premier's office. Our Premier and our Minister of Economic Development are in India as we speak, meeting with SR officials. They're on an India trade mission. So I know that there is the sense of urgency and the awareness of how important this is to our community and to the province as well as to the country. We can't sit idly by and allow Canadians and residents of Sault Ste. Marie, their jobs to be impacted because we don't have the right regulations in place, because we don't have a trade remedy system that deals with them fairly. They can't be asked to do things that other jurisdictions are not asked to do and put the steel on the market in the open market and be negatively impacted by that dumping. We just, we can't stand by and allow that to happen. This needs to change, and it needs to change now.
Great. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.